SEC Media Days at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. Commissioner Greg Sankey probably walking around with a strut this week. Boy, some conferences not in great shape. The SEC, oh, they are feeling good. It's a conference that's going to add Texas and Oklahoma in a few years. As of now, that's not scheduled to happen until the 2025 season, but you never know.
Sankey, Commissioner of the SEC. Literally a year ago this week, the college athletics world changed when word of Texas and OU coming to your conference. Could you have foreseen what happened in the last year? Alston, NIL, now we've got realignment, not all related, not all unrelated. But what's the last year been like?
If you go back to last June, so June of 21, I said to our presidents when we first in-person meeting we'd had since the pandemic, I said this could be the most consequential year in the history of college sports. And I didn't know that we would expand. It was certainly hovering in the back of my mind. But the Alston decision, the onset of name, image, and likeness, the college football playoff discussion was introduced in early June. So a lot of it you could foresee, but there are elements that, the Big Ten move was obviously a surprise, I think, collectively. And the reality is things change. It's not as if we can just sit back and not expect that there won't be more change that will come.
And now we got the Transformation Committee. I don't even know if that was a thing a year ago, rewriting the Constitution. You're co-chair on that group. What is left to decide?
Oh, a lot, really a lot. So if you go back, the Constitution Committee was formed and announced, and when you look at the language, a bit of hyperbole it seemed to me, because the Constitution of the NCAA is 43 pages, and it assigns authority and process. So the real issues were in Division I, and the charge to the Transformation Committee was about direct financial benefits to student athletes, governance and decision-making, membership, regulatory culture. And to walk through those and deal with process issues just takes some time. And Dennis, you have to think through the membership part. Division I hasn't dealt with that effectively in decades. So to think it would be wrapped up in 6 months, I think, was inattentive to all that had happened before. And how we make decisions, we went through a 2-year process to create autonomy. And again, to just think it would be done in 6 months wasn't informed about the past. So moving forward, those two issues are front and center. And the issues around regulatory change and trying to make some progress on infractions, I think those are well set. Transfer model can be updated. I don't think we'll ever be done with some of those changes around how we oversee and support transfers. But there's a lot of work that's been done, but some important issues to come.
A lot of your administrative peers think we're inevitably headed towards some sort of pro model, revenue sharing, collective bargaining. Do you ever foresee that? Because I know that's something that you might want to stop before that.
I think we have to be attentive to it, and we're attentive to it in the right environments, with legal counsel analyzing and guiding the conversation as opposed to opining. And so could you foresee something? I think it would be wrong to predict that. I think those are those things that lawyers get paid by the hour to help us analyze and think forward regarding.
You mentioned it in your State of the Union address. Where does the SEC stand now on expansion, on realignment?
We're looking forward to being at 16, so the news you asked me about earlier is more and more real. We have time to prepare, which is different than our 2011 expansion, where we had between 10 months and down to about 8 months to prepare. So we've done a lot of work on how we schedule. Still some work to do, particularly in football. What's happening around us really is happening around us, as opposed to us, if you will. And what I mean is, we feel very comfortable moving to 16 teams. Our regional connection's incredibly strong. I think our ties to our fan base are probably even stronger when we add Oklahoma and Texas and bring back some rivalries and maintain at least the rivalry between those two schools. So we're going to be attentive to what's happening around us. We're not going to just wall ourselves off and become isolationists, but we don't have a number to be met, and we don't have a need to just react because somebody else acts. We want to do what's right for the Southeastern Conference from our perspective. We also want to support healthy competition on a national level, and we'll see what changes that brings.
And nobody's done it since the WAC to have a 16-team league.
Right, and so there'll be two, which is distinctive. So there'll be two. The ACC is actually at 16 and everything except football. I think the dynamics are different for us. In fact, I know they are, having done a lot of research related to the WAC and having lived in Texas when SMU, TCU, Houston were all part of that. And so to kind of think through how you bring people together, how you continue to multiply your culture, how you meet the financial expectations is at the forefront of our thought and planning.
At what point, in general, what point does it become unwieldy? 16 is big. I'm sure your days are now longer fielding calls with that many participants, but at what number does it become unwieldy?
I was asked that at a Rotary Club last September. I said 2. They're like, what number is too much for a conference? I said 2, because if you have a one-team conference, I can make everybody happy. Once you have 2, you have a difference of perspective. That is a point of sensitivity. So we know when we went to 14, our cross-divisional games would cause a 12-year wait for somebody to make a trip, Kentucky to College Station or Arkansas to Florida. And that's just too long, and so we want to have the opportunity through our affiliations to play each other regularly, and 16 can do that. When you grow beyond it, can it be done? Sure, but it does create some limitations where part of what we've built here is special because the competition within the SEC is so meaningful and so challenging and so rewarding.
Okay, a brag bag item. What's it like to sit up there in your club suite and know you can't lose a national championship, because it wasn't the first time?
Yeah, the interesting thing about having 2 teams picked in the 4-team playoff is that when it happens, that's the happiest moment of like the next month, because then you go into the semis and you're like, oh, what if we go for 2? The stories will be horrible, and then when you come out and both teams won, you're really proud, but then you go like on autopilot, like a mid-season conference game. It is rewarding, and to see the game this past year played at such a high level, which is what happened the last time the 2 teams met in the national championship game. It was a 1-point game with 10 minutes to go. I think just magnified the respect for what happens, and I'd be lying if I told you it wasn't fun. But it's fun with a governor, because you can't cheer. You wear your green necktie.
That's right. Okay, just to make it official, no official vacation this summer. You were too busy.
Well, the reality for me is, I can recall I took over in June 2015, and my wife and I had planned a trip to Colorado, and I spent the whole time on the phone. So I've learned that you have to have boundaries around that. But when I started what I thought was going to be a really nice break over the July 4th weekend, that's when the news broke, and spent literally the next 10 days, from first thing in the morning, actually late into the evening, just trying to communicate, understand, hear from people, ask questions, evaluate both internally and externally what was happening, and what needs to be considered from our perspective moving forward.
Thank you, Greg Sankey.
Thanks, Dennis.
All right, we're going to have Alabama meet the media on Tuesday. That's tomorrow. They are the favorites to win the SEC. The defending champion Georgia Bulldogs meet the media on Wednesday. Huge drop-off down to Texas A&M with the 3rd best odds at 16-1, and then it plummets to 40-1 for everybody else. Tennessee, Ole Miss, Kentucky included. The Cover 3 folks going to be talking a lot more SEC this week. They've recently posted their win total picks for the Big 12 and the Pac-12. Check it out wherever you like to get your audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.